There
Oh,
we go.
hello, Sidra.
That was noises off. So welcome everybody. Today we're chatting about EDU101 401 and the major assignment in particular. And I'm hoping that you've got a whole bunch of questions you want to drill me with, but can I just go for 5 minutes and give you some headline factual stuff that I'd love to share anyway. Here we go. Thanks to Matt Stackhouse, who marked the minor. That was a huge blessing to me because I was in a backlog of marking and the overlap was silly. So that's sorted, and thanks to him. Now, I haven't seen what he's said about you, although I've seen the marks overall. And I don't know what he's necessarily picked up on and what he's let through to the keeper. But anyway, here's a few things. This is everybody's first major subject, the foundation subject. It's the subject when people get the mechanics of doing assignments sorted out, and it no longer becomes an issue. You just do assignments, and this is the protocol of how you do assignments. So one of the things I look for normally when I'm marking the minor is, have you got those protocols in place? For example, have you got a cover sheet, which you will find on EDInfo, and you cut and paste it from the Word document and you stick it on the front of your assignment, and it's only one file you submit. Some people in the past I've found adjusting the formatting of the cover sheet. You're not supposed to. That's the format of the cover sheet, so you don't bold it, you don't center it, you don't do this and the other and put color onto it like some people like to do. Just cut and paste, stick it on there, and make sure you do a running header top right with the page numbers top right, not bottom. A lot of people miss all that. The reason, and I must admit I haven't talked about the reason for that, is that if you're publishing in a journal, the publisher would say, this is the format, you do it like this or you don't get published. So you can't fiddle around and say, oh, I don't like that font, I think I like this one, and I would like underlining, and I'd like it in blue. Nah. You can't have that liberty, I'm sorry. You're submitting to a college, soon to be university, and that's the rules. We try to get you to abide by the rules. So cover sheet from EDInfo. Welcome, Sarah. The next thing I would emphasize is that even in this question, I know it uses the word bibliography and it needs to be edited. So in all education subjects, I would love you to get into the habit of doing references, not a bibliography. A bibliography means a list of stuff you've read, which you may not necessarily have referenced in that particular paper, whereas a reference list is what you have read, and that is what you are referencing at the end. So please do references alone, no bibliography. And this is transition semester between APA 6th and APA 7th. If you're doing APA 7th, please write a little note somewhere saying that's what this is. Otherwise, I'll assume for this semester it's APA 6th. Okay. And if you haven't found it yet, please find the Education Student Handbook on EDInfo. It's really, really useful for getting the protocols of an assignment down pat. For example, Appendix F on page 47 and Appendix G on page 53. I would suggest that, I know it's a very big document, but Appendix F and G, I would say you have to read them. You have to follow those rules, okay? Just do it, and then you don't have to ever have to think about it again. It becomes second nature. Usually in most assignments, the the professional presentation of stuff is worth 10% of that assignment. Now, normally I give about 7 or 8 for that. If you stuff up APA 6 badly, you might end up with 5 out of 10. Now, what's the point of throwing 2 marks away just because you can't be bothered to learn APA 6? I see no logical sense in it. Those 2 marks might determine whether you get a credit or an HD or a distinction. So make sure you get every single point you can get. For the mechanical stuff, you don't have to think about. Go for the 8. You know, if you're getting something from me, go for an 8 out of 10, and you'll be thinking, "Yay, I've nailed all that. I don't have to worry about it ever again." Now, there was another thought that went through tangentially there. Lost it. Anyway, I'll pause there. Any questions about all that stuff?
So what constitutes a HD? What mark? Is it 85%?
If you read Appendix F.
Okay, cool.
It is 85%.
Will do.
Yeah. In Appendix F, there's some really good paragraphs, yay long, which describe what a credit looks like, what a distinction looks like. They're really nicely written and give you a very good idea of where you're sitting. Okay, and they're standard across the whole college.
Okay.
Anything else on all the mechanical stuff?
Oh, I do have a question. This is maybe not mechanical, but in Turnitin, I know when you submit something to Turnitin, it comes back with a similarity report that I found that most of my similarities was in my cover sheet. You know?
Yes, that's right, and that is absolutely fine.
Right.
I normally, thank you for raising Turnitin.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a similarity of 10 to 15, 16% is okay because it's the cover sheet, because it's the actual reference that is picked up. If you're getting 25%, 30%, the alarm bells are going off.
Right.
And it's typically because you've taken a full quote and you haven't put it in inverted commas. And if you are using a full quote, and I don't recommend you do it too often, if you are, put it in inverted commas and make sure the in-text reference has a page number on the end of it. And then you should be fine. And even if Turnitin stuffs up and gives you a funny high score, I can see that that's how it went high, because it was creating, and if you've referenced properly like that, it's not a drama. When you get higher percentages, then lecturers' bells will be ringing. Anything else on mechanical stuff? Cool. Now, in the bachelor, I noticed that that's a 50% mark for the major and 60 for the masters. Bachelor have to do 2,000 words and master 3,600 words. So I would argue it's actually pretty hard to write a philosophy in bachelor's for 500 words. That's probably a harder task than writing your philosophy for 1,500 words in masters. So I feel for you. I'm not too fussed about word counts. The main reason for word counts is so that you don't burn out and you make sure you pace yourself. And it's a bit like the time going at the end of an exam. That's the time, put your pens down. So the whole idea is so that you don't overwork, not that that we're going to be marking you down if you go 200 words over. I might make a rude comment and say, that was a bit silly, wasn't it? But I'm sure you'll forgive me. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's talk about the assignment. So to ask a question, Karen, Sidra, or Sarah, you have to unmute yourself. And since we've got a relatively small number, feel free to unmute yourself unless you've got a dog barking or the road's being dug up behind you. Any questions? You don't. So you're the faithful. Sarah's come undone. Sidra, go for it. Any questions?
Actually,
Yes.
I don't have a question, but my daughter is just around, so she would be making noises. That's why I try to keep muted.
That's all right. Okay. Make sure you, if you've got any questions, and this is to any of you, during this session that you don't get a chance to ask or you want come to you straight after, stick it in the news forum, and we'll get a bit of a conversation going in there. So don't send an email if it's about the assignment, unless of course it's a personal issue, in which case an email is most appropriate. But make sure that you put your questions in the forum if you don't do it now. Okay. So you'd like me to talk about the philosophy. I'm really trying to get you to ask me some questions. One thing I did before this this recording this morning is I went through the Moodle pages and looked at the what I got there alongside the turn it in button for the assignment, and I saw a video I made in 2016, and it was with a bunch of students like you, and I had a little listen to it. I think that was pretty good, otherwise I would have canned it. So have a listen to that. There's some good questions and some good responses from other students. They were both masters and bachelors. So it's 15 minutes long, so have a listen or a watch to that. The question of a philosophy. You see, I would argue that this paper, this one document, this Word document that you're going to hand in. Incidentally, never do a PDF. Always a Word document. When you hand this document in with its two parts, I would argue this is the most pivotal essay you're ever going to do for your degree. You will, as the months and years go by, you will change your mind. Absolutely, you'll change your mind. And I hope you and pray you do change your mind, because you'll be studying and getting new experiences of schooling, and your thinking will be growing. So if you like, this is a snapshot of where you are now, and you're trying to distill your thoughts about why am I doing this? Some of the issues people in the past have gone off way too theoretical. They've gone philosophical, and it's been far too high, and it's not been rooted in the classroom. In part A, I'm really interested in how does your thoughts and your innermost drive, ambitions, and all that lot, how does that work out when you're in front of 30 kids? Does it impact what you do in the day-to-day? Or is it just a theoretical bubble in your head that you might think about when you're lying on your back sunbathing? It's not like that. We're in a classroom, and you are absolutely doing stuff that is a result of your thinking. Therefore, what do you do as a result of your thinking? So that's what part A is really all about. So root it definitely in the classroom. You really amplify it in part B. We'll come on to that in a minute. But part A is more of a philosophical statement about where you're at. Sometimes I've used the analogy of a manifesto. You know, Karl Marx, a fascist manifesto, a whatever. Just think of some movement global warming manifesto or something. What is it? What's the essence of why do I believe what I believe? And it's a real tussle. I would suggest you don't do it first. You do it after you've done B. So do B, because that will help crystallize your thinking, and then you'll be able to distill stuff from there. Yeah, that's what I need to put in my philosophy. And then when you've written it, you'll be tempted to say, oh, I don't like that. Oh man, do I have to add that in? Yeah, you do. Because it's a dynamic philosophy, one that you're going to change. And it would be ridiculous if it was set in stone, like the Ten Commandments. This is it, and I'm going to hang on to it forever. I hope not. You will see on Moodle, there's my philosophy. It's a bit more than 500 words, and it was written 10 years ago. If I were to write it again now, I think there'd be lots of things I would change. If I'd written it when I was at your stage in your career, 1970s, I don't know what I would have said. It's a huge challenge to articulate why am I here and what do I want to do with these kids. For example, and I'll shut up in a minute. One of the things I do remember in the 70s, I was absolutely passionate about my subject. I was a physical geographer, and I really got excited about glaciers and climate change, actually, and the comings and goings of ice ages. And one of my most favorite models was the Antarctic ice sheet that, when it builds up with snow, eventually splashes out into the southern oceans, causing a tidal wave that goes around the world. And then the world cools down because of the greater area of ice. You can see I'm getting excited. I just wanted to share that with the students. So because of my excitement, I couldn't help but communicate my passion. And that's what was my driving force, I think, in the 1970s, a passion for the subject. Now, if you're a primary school teacher, you might be, your heart might go out to, oh man, if only these kids had a parent who actually parented them. Oh, I can be that. Yeah, count me in. I'll go and be the parent that they never had, and I'll show them how to parent. Fantastic. That's a philosophy. So articulate that. And again, it's the sweat. There'll be probably tears. There's sweat and tears in this. But above all, be concise, especially bachelors. You've only got 500 words. You can't be writing a lot. You've really got to be concise, not quite dot point, but really don't be verbose. Don't ever repeat yourself. Please don't. Oh, and don't do abstracts for this assignment. If a lecturer wants you to do an abstract, they'll tell you, I'm not asking you to. It's a waste of words, therefore don't do it this time. Anything, come on, I must have provoked some questions. What's stunned mullets? What's the matter with you?
We haven't actually had time to go through all the notes that you've left us. I think we're so involved getting ready with the other assignments that we've got to hand in next week in the other course.
Well, that is a fair comment.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a fair comment.
And what you said about reading everything again and thinking, gee, did I write that? This is terrible. I felt that way with my first assignment. I thought, wow, my goodness. I spent hours reviewing, and I thought, I can't believe I wrote this rubbish. Anyway, I did submit it.
And what grade did you get?
26.
No. What, out of 30?
30, yeah.
That's pretty good. That equates to a
86 or 87 or something.
There you go, an HD. So congratulations.
But I really wasn't happy with it at the end. I just thought my language was terrible. My sentences were short. It just didn't. Yeah. But anyway, just how much time you would spend on it is like, maybe I'm being too.
Well, think about the whole notion of we don't have any exams in education, and as long as I'm here, there will never be any exams.
Whew, thank you.
My feeling is that really benefits a small percentage of the average learner, and what's more, it doesn't really model what is happening in schools too much. So let's model what's happening in a school. Yes, HSC, Victorian exams and all, they do have exams, but there's also so much continuous assessment as well. So my feeling is that, okay, we don't have exams, but we have assignments, but they have a deadline. Now, that then disadvantages the workaholic, the perfectionist, who, like you, will be reviewing. And is it ever right? You've really got to have the courage to put that pen down and just submit. And definitely when you've got other assignments due at the same time, you've got to be very strategic in how much time you can allocate. Like an exam, I'll spend Thursday night, Friday night on that, and I will do Saturday on that. And you've got to be ruthless, otherwise you'll be in a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else comment? Okay. Part B. Part B, here we go. Now the wording in Part B, I've wrestled with it. We've had that wording for a very long time. And on the whole, I believe it's okay, but there are some flaws in the wording of Part B, which let me try and unpack. There's a lot of words, and my attitude towards them is that they aren't a list that you have to tick off every single one religiously. This is what I would love you to do, or this is what I'd love you to think about. In your studies through this subject, through your readings, through your research, you'll find some approaches, some teaching strategies. You see, these words are so interchangeable. Don't get hung up on the language, because depending on who's writing, they're going to be using different words. The approaches, the teaching strategies, the pedagogies, you'll find some of them, yay, really ring true with you, and you could say, I could do that. That fits with my worldview. I could do that, even if it was invented in the 1800s. You don't, just because it's old doesn't mean to say it's no good. It might be just right. And what I'm asking you to do in Part B is analyze why that resonates with you so well. So don't spend ages describing the philosophy. Give a definition, sure. An approach, give a definition, of course. But then most of what you're writing about is your analysis of it. Why does this really work with me? And then there'll be other approaches that you've come across on this course that don't resonate with you at all, and you think, yeah, I'll do my best to leave that one behind. And then you're trying to analyze why you don't like that. So to me, it's a bit like two packs of cards. There's the good ones, and there's the not so good ones. And you're sifting out the different approaches. What would you like? What are you going to use, and what are you not going to use? For example, if you come to classroom management, which is one of those terms in the question, you know, what is your approach to discipline? You've got to have a clear idea of what your approach to discipline is. You know, it isn't necessary to say the classroom has to be silent, because you might be having an approach which is problem solving, group work, in which case there should be healthy, excited discussion while people are working. And again, it's age dependent and all that. But can you differentiate noise that is productive from noise that isn't? So you've got to have an approach to classroom management that really is going to work for you. And that's why I say don't write A until you've done B. I would argue you could make the structure of B quite straightforward. Don't ever make it complex. Approaches you like, approaches you don't. I'm not saying you have to do it exactly like that, but that's one approach. Or you could intertwine. You could take classroom management and, yay, I like this, but I don't like that. All sorts of different subheadings. Please use subheadings very well. Don't have too many, I would suggest. In part B, there might be 4 or 5. If you have any more than that, I think it might be becoming a bit of a list. Okay. Now, look, seriously, I'm going to drop the pen here. You have to, Andrew, you have to go. We will see you anon. But come on, guys. Andrew's been flying the flag a little. Chris, give me a question or a comment.
Wow. I'm still getting over the notion that I am required to sweat tears of blood or something to that effect over my philosophy. I was hoping it was just going to be kind of a fun recognition of where my thinking is at the moment. I'm not sure that this is the hill I want to die on, you know?
Well, look, with no disrespect intended, I think you might have had a bit more time than some to to think this through already, and you may have had some sweat and tears in the past.
Okay, pay that one. Yeah, because I was just thinking, you know, like, yeah, I'm just looking forward to put it down on paper again. I had the opportunity, oh, goodness me, might have been in the early 80s to write a philosophy of Christian education back then. Unfortunately, it was on my old Macintosh computer that was kind of like this big sort of cubish thing. And I've actually I've managed to get a hold of the person who I flogged it off to for a good price. And we're trying to see if we can pull the old one off the computer to see what I wrote.
Well, look, I think what's distilled in here is probably going to be far more worthwhile than what you wrote then.
I'm hoping so, but it would be just an interesting comparison to see what the difference
would.
One of the things that that does interest me, and it's kind of like a bit of my journey here, is that personally, I'm not really all that keen to be teaching in Australia and be teaching in an education system. You know, my thing is really to be teaching in remote communities with families, significant adults and kids working through different aspects of both problem solving, but also some basic literacy and numeracy stuff. So I guess, you know, I'm looking more in terms of the philosophy and stuff, and some of the other material that I've been resourcing has been, you know, some of the Jewish philosophy of education that's a little bit more family-based and things like that. Is that a little bit too far off the mark? Because it won't be, and it's intentionally not, because it really is about small groups, whole family education. That is really where my interest lies.
Oh man, you have pressed some buttons. To me, education is not in a system.
Yeah.
To me, it's not. Systems happen to be where most people educate. But to me, education is so much rounder. It's in the relationship between teacher and learner,
Yeah.
and the environment that we find ourselves in. To me, that's where it's at. So in part A, you'll notice in the question, you have to indicate the context.
Mm.
And I didn't emphasize that, but please be clear where your context is, because you can go writing off a fantastic philosophy and never tell me, oh yeah, and where are you going to teach that then? We've had homeschoolers before.
Yeah.
On the course. We've had Montessori people. We've had people in Christian schools. We've had people in Islamic schools. So whatever the context, it doesn't matter. As long as you are clear in your head, yeah, this is where the vision is that I'm going to be teaching in this sort of context. Therefore, this is what my philosophy needs to be for that context.
Yeah. One of my concerns, apart from this particular assignment, but one of my concerns is Australia's and many Western communities' notion that, the white mandate for education, that it's kind of the Western view of the way learning transpires and schooling transpires is perceived by the white world as being the pinnacle of all that is, educational learning. And I'm kind of keen to explore some of those non-white Western views of philosophy and of education and learning and non-white stuff. I get a little bit of instruction or direction there where there could be, unfortunately, the only language that I speak other than English is Mandarin, and education philosophy books in Mandarin are a bit above my level. So I'm kind of keen to get a little bit of steering around material that might be in English, and that's why I've gone Jewish, because it actually, there is a quantity of material that is in English in that direction that isn't saying everybody has to play like the Americans.
Have you done EBSCO searches?
I have done a couple, yeah. I'm finding some material challenging to get from, like I can get abstracts and through the library at Alpha Crucis, but pulling down full articles that actually goes into anything more than sort of like an abstract is proving to be a little challenging. I
think for me, well, my response to you is that for this assignment, I think you've got a wealth of experience anyway. Don't try and bite off too much for this assignment.
Okay.
If you can lay your hands on some of the Jewish stuff, that would be great. Mm-hmm. We've got a Jewish school in Melbourne where students are learning with us. Yes. And it's really fascinating to see some of their assignments come through. And we say, obviously, use your own philosophies. Yeah. So that would definitely resonate with your view of the home being, so you might look up homeschooling stuff, of which there's a plethora, where there could definitely be a resonance between what you're thinking. Yes. But as I say, don't get yourself caught in a research project that you haven't got the time for at the moment. Yeah, okay, take that on board. Thank you. Anyone else? There must be. Karen, unmute yourself, please.
Done. Hello. Yes, well, I have only been thinking about teaching for about 4 months max. Before that, I was trying to avoid it. And now, so opening, like I'm a scientist and I've gone in now doing education art. It's an art subject. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. So I just had to have a look at what I got in the essay to find out if I was anywhere near the mark, which turns out I was okay. Phew. But when it comes, I'm a scientist. I like to know where it's coming from. So I'm going into Steiner schools. So I'm reading the philosophy of Steiner. I'm reading, and then I'm trying to find modern interpretations on the philosophy of Steiner. And then I'm going into the classroom in the Steiner school. And I'm seeing, like I take what I've read the previous week and I go into the classroom and I go, oh, this could be interpreted a different way. Oh, how fascinating. So I go home and then I start looking into other things. and at the moment I'm swimming in a sea of brand new things I've never thought about before, and it's fascinating and wonderful, except I'm hoping not to drown in the process. So when I'm looking at the pedagogies and all of those sort of things, it's, yeah, I'm trying to bring it back to a basis that I try and understand, but I don't understand Steiner at all. If you've ever read any of his work, it's treacle. So yeah, so I'm not sure where I'm going at the moment, but I'm hoping I'm going somewhere.
My response to you is this subject, Foundations in Christian Learning and Teaching, is a very interesting title, I think. My attitude towards it is that it introduces a huge quantity of ideas. In fact, you might like to go to the subject outline for this subject, where it sort of sets out a vast quantity of content.
Mm-hmm.
And you might think, and rather than drilling deep into all of them, which you can't do, this is very a superficial skim over the surface to get your head around the breadth of what is education. I mean, to take a silly analogy, perhaps, you know, when you're coming into training as a teacher, it's not like how you're taught to be a mechanic and mend a car, because there you need to learn your tools, you need to learn your materials, you need to learn the models of the car, and you do X plus Y equals Z, bum, bum, bum. And you've got to be meticulous and methodical. But whereas, arguably, you could say, where's the heart? You're just doing a mechanical job, whereas teaching is not a mechanical job. It actually engages with the heart, and therefore what can engage and what leaves you cold and disinterested. So I would just simply focus on the big picture, keep it nice and broad. Don't, I mean, if you wanted to go into depth, say, of 3 or 4 pedagogies and not mention any more, that's cool. I think you can go too far the other way and just be totally superficial about 20. You wouldn't be able to get an argument going at all. So bear in mind that I want to be persuaded in part B that you feel passionate about this and why, and you don't feel passionate about that and why. Oh, and therefore the connection between B and A is so logical. It should be like the distillation of cream on top of the milk.
Okay. Yeah, and from a Christian perspective as well, because the more I delve into Steiner, the further I'm wondering why God's putting me in this situation. And I know it's God driven because this was the answer to prayer. Yeah, so like I'm trying to filter out all of that as well. But it's very fascinating, and hopefully something interesting will come out of it for you to read.
Good. I'm sure it will. You'll have a ball, but as I say, you've got to watch the time.
I will, yes.
Be very, very disciplined with yourself.
Yeah, that's it, yes.
Okay, Chris has disappeared. Cedra, unmute yourself and please ask me anything you wish.
I was just thinking, like, there are a few aspects of an approach that are not aligned with my views. Like, I might be interested in their one way. Let's say I'm interested in their behavior management, but I'm not interested in the delivery of particular, knowledge in that with that approach. So I want to adopt one thing of the approach, but not the other. So should I be explaining it?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. And
Yeah,
that would be very, very helpful to be critical of an approach and saying, yes, this approach, this bit of it is fine, but not that.
Yeah.
And no, I love that. And see, I've only just actually caught up with the fact that you were a late starter in the course, and I hope you're, just a quick question, are you okay with the forums? Are you up to speed with them now?
Yeah, I'm actually like I've got the pace because I was late, so I had to, rush through lots of things, lots of readings, and yeah, I got hold of it now, and it's getting better. Actually, I restarted like my studies after almost 10 years, 8 to 10 years, and it was really hard to get back into the form and to express myself the way it should be. So it was a bit tricky, I would say. Yeah, it took me some really hard work to get into it back.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, now I'm eased into it, and yeah, I feel like I can do it, because at the start I was like all, you know anxiety and everything was just getting in. I was just not comfortable and not getting, I would say, not confident enough maybe at the start, but now I'm much better.
Good. Have you got your minor back yet?
Yeah, I just checked my grades, and I've got 20. So I was just thinking, would we be getting the word format back with the comments?
Yes, you should. And that's a very interesting question.
Mhm.
The Matt should have uploaded the marked version on Turnitin. So go into your assignment and open it up, and the comments should be in there.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
If they're
Thank you.
not, send
Mhm.
me an email and I'll make sure that they come out, because I didn't check that with Matt, because what I
Okay.
do is I download a Word
Mhm.
version, mark it with reviewing, and then I upload it again to Turnitin, so that you can see all my comments throughout.
But
Incidentally, has
I
anyone
I
else?
I've just opened that grade part, and I don't know where to get
Where
the
you submitted, the same place you submitted.
Okay, it doesn't show anything there, so I guess it hasn't been uploaded.
Um,
I found mine there where it said like the grade. I found it there and I clicked on it and it had the Word document with all your comments on it.
good.
Okay. All right.
So,
Thank you.
Cedra, if you're looking on a phone,
Yeah.
it won't work. So make sure
Okay.
you're on a computer.
All right. I'll do that. Yeah.
And if you get trouble, let me know.
Sure. I will. I'll get in touch. Yeah.
Okay. Sarah, any comments, reflections from you?
I don't think so at this point, because as I completely forgot his name.
Andrew?
Andrew said earlier on, I've been focusing on the other unit and the essay that's due next week. I'm hoping to start this major project next week, and I've been taking notes throughout the whole session of like the things to look forward to and the things to kind of stay away from, and the
Good.
framework. So
Good. The thing is, I don't think doing an assignment like this is something that you start when you actually sit down and start writing. It's already happening. And even in this hour we spent today, that's doing the assignment. It's getting your head around it, doing the readings as you read them. That's all leading towards the assignment, because you're making judgments. I like this, I don't like that, why don't I like this? You're doing it. So all that's happening when you actually write, you're just putting down on paper what's already been happening.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Do I have anything else I want to share? Tell me a bit more about, any of you, tell me a bit more about your studies. For example, 405, you're all doing 405? No, but Sidra and no, Sarah?
I'm doing 105.
Yeah, sorry, 105 or 405. How is it going? Talk to me about 105, 405.
Yeah, it's going like I had a assignment with them as well, like in 4 or 5. So I had been working on it. It's due this week. So yeah, it's interesting. I would say it helped me actually to get back to that mode of studying. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was helpful.
yeah. Now, in the assignment there on homework,
Mhm.
the well, you know, the values of homework, etc.
Yeah.
That's a really good argumentative essay, and I would argue the skills you develop for that are
Mhm.
similar to B in this one,
Yeah.
where you've got to argue and be very careful you aren't tempted to describe, because anybody can describe. It's a more of a challenge to argue a case. Imagine yourself in a courtroom, and you're either prosecution or your defense, and you've got to give a compelling argument for your perspective. Now, it's not easy. A descriptive essay is far easier, but the rewards, I think, are far greater. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, folks, or do we call this a wrap?
I guess.
Okay. I will let you go. Have a wonderful day, folks, and don't forget the news forum for generic questions that you might have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.